GrowCFO is where finance leaders grow together. Join thousands of like-minded professionals using GrowCFO to access the combined knowledge and experience of the finance leader community. You can join us today, growcfo.net. Hello and welcome to the GrowCFO Show. I'm your host, Kevin Appleby, and today we're talking about leading with impact. And I've got two guests with me. I've got Catherine Marks, Head of Corporate Training in GrowCFO, who is also outside of GrowCFO very keen on making an impact, social impact. And also with me is one of the co-founders of Charterpath, Alice Clementi. Alice, tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks, Kevin. Delighted to be here today on the GrowCFO Show. So Kevin, started as a trainee accountant at PwC. And when I moved to London, I was totally shocked by the levels of homelessness that I could see all around me. And I started volunteering for a local homeless charity called The Passage, where I went after work. And I originally started as a white van man driver, and then found out that my co-driver picking up the food from Marks and Spencer's, taking it back to the homeless shelter, was the CFO of the charity. And he said, look, Alice, this is all very well you driving the van with us, but your skills are incredibly valuable to us as a trainee accountant, and we would love to have you join our risk and audit committee. Slightly daunted by the prospect, but excited to have a go. I joined their risk and audit committee and was just totally blown away by the whole experience of getting an insight into the charity and how it worked, being able to see the difference that they were making, and also this sort of incredible professional experience too that I hadn't expected, sitting on a board with people who were having these illustrious city careers and being able to learn, how to challenge and be a kind of critical friend to the charity. So I went back to PwC and made use of my corporate charity days to keep on doing it. But I was just shocked that so few other people were doing the same, given all these benefits. I also connected there with Alex, who is my co-founder at Charterpath. He had been volunteering as a school governor for a local school and also had an amazing experience. And we talked about it, as you do, for years and years, about how we could get more people into volunteering and celebrate these sort of mutual benefits, both for the charity sector and also for the volunteer. And as it happened, spent probably 9 years having corporate careers and kept on coming back to this idea, but not finding the right moment to start it, struggling with busy lives. And then the pandemic happened, and it really put everything into perspective that charities were really struggling with their donation. They had a huge increase in demand for their services. And so we finally kicked us into action. And we launched Charterpath with the aim of inspiring more finance professionals into volunteering their skills to the nonprofit sector. So that was about 3 or 4 years ago. And we started out with a LinkedIn campaign, and we've now fully fledged charity aiming to inspire more people to get involved. We connect them with nonprofits through our jobs board. Got lots of resources to help people get started volunteering. And we're also trying to engage with the wider sector, financial services sector, to embed volunteering. So it's really a status quo for every finance professional's journey. So my day job is running Charterpath.
Alice, that is brilliant. And I suppose your current job in this podcast is talking me into being a volunteer.
That's right.
Catherine, you're doing lots of good things for GrowCFO. Tell us a little bit more about the other things that you're doing outside of GrowCFO.
Yeah, so GrowCFO keeps me busy with lots of things, but I split my time kind of 50-50 at the moment, Kevin. So as you know, I've got a background working in finance for the last 20 years, but a year or so ago, I decided to make a values-driven shift. And I now, split my time between working as a facilitator, coach and mentor, but I'm also studying a master's degree in philanthropy, which I absolutely love. It's great to be studying again after a very long time, learning from a new network of people and the incredible team at the University of Kent. And alongside that, I am consulting for a number of non-profit organizations like the Cranfield Trust. So they offer pro bono services to charities, and the Four, for example, who fund exceptional small charities, as well as working directly with some non-profit organizations. And it was really the combination of those things that led to the collaboration with Charterpath, which we'll tell you a bit more about.
So that's GrowCFO collaborating with Charterpath.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk more about that, but we'll come back to that in a little while. Now, tell us a bit more about impact.
So, my perspective since I have been more involved with the nonprofit sector, it's given me a whole new perspective on what does impact mean and how are personal and social impact related. So, the Cambridge Dictionary definition of impact is to have a strong effect or influence on a situation or person. I think in the world of corporate finance, we can focus a lot on influencing our business stakeholders, often in the pursuit of profit or other business goals. But it's really far more multidimensional than that. One of my favorite quotes, which you may well be familiar with, is from Maya Angelou. So she says, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
It's very true.
Yeah. And I'd even take that a step further and say it's about how you made them feel and what action you caused them to take as a result. And as leaders, we can have both positive and negative impact and both intended and unintended impact. If you think back to some pivotal moments in your life and people that impacted you at the time, that the way that they made you feel is what sticks with you, right? That feeling of inspiration or courage or feeling deflated or angry even. We should really ask ourselves what kind of leaders that we want to be.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I always think the best leaders are the ones that you'd go back and look up to and copy as a role model.
Yeah. Absolutely agree with you there, Kevin.
So we're talking here in this podcast about skills-based volunteering, which clearly ties into what you've been talking about there, Catherine, that this master's in I'll get my tongue around it eventually, philanthropy. And you and Alice have come together with GrowCFO and Charterpath. What's skills-based volunteering all about?
I'd love to tell you a bit more about that. So often when people are volunteering, particularly thinking about how they maybe use their volunteering days at work, they tend to get involved in maybe some fence painting or some litter picking, a kind of group team building activity with a bit of community service thrown in, which is brilliant, don't get me wrong. But it can be quite onerous for charities to organize these types of days, whether it's getting the sort of supervision in place, finding a suitable task that people can do, the insurance, to the extent that charities are in some cases charging for people to do these events. And the charities really would love to use the skills that those same people have rather than fence painting, to instead be making use of their, in this case, financial expertise to support the financials at the charity, whether it's helping to prepare or review accounts, helping with a specific project, perhaps serving on their board as a trustee. And so we're trying to...
I was involved, well, still am involved with our local sports centre in the village that I live in. It's charity, supports the local community, which is a very small community right out in the sticks. And for years and years, problem one is getting people to volunteer as trustees. Problem number two is, out of those people that do volunteer, finding out those folks that have got the right skills to do the jobs that need doing. There's a huge need for something to align those things completely.
And resources are so tight. In many small charities in particular, you'll find people responsible for the finances maybe have no professional financial qualification or experience. They're also in charge of running HR and legal and premises and client services. So to get the support from volunteers is really absolutely invaluable. So we're really focused on trying to encourage people away from volunteering for roles that other people could do to using their skills to bring real value and long-term impact for those charities. Because by coming in and supporting a charity, you might be able to set up a new system which improves their efficiency, or access new grants which helps them create services for the long term. So the impact really is felt well beyond that one day or that one afternoon of activity, and can make a difference and an impact for the charity in the long term.
So Charterpath is all about connecting those people with the charities. Okay.
Yes.
Catherine, big demand for this?
huge demand, Kevin. Financial skills are the number one skill set that charities are looking for. And unfortunately, nonprofits are facing a lot of challenges. There was already a downward trend in both donations and volunteering long before COVID. And then with the pandemic and the cost of living crisis, financial pressures have just increased for charities, both with the lower donations and higher competition for funding.
Less ability of the charity to pay people to do stuff. So less ability to go and actually pay bookkeeper, accountant, etc. We as accountants sitting here have all got the skills to do that job and possibly enough spare time to help. Certainly for many years, I was the finance person at the local sports centre, and I'm still there. I've managed to get somebody else into that role who incidentally is good, but isn't a qualified accountant. I'm still keeping an eye on what he's doing as the independent examiner.
Was it an easy job to recruit him?
No, he doesn't live in the village. And I think we got in touch with one or two new trustees through a website or a place that you could advertise for trustees, which I don't think was Charterpath, because we did this, I think, before you existed. But
don't worry, Kevin. I'm not judging. But it's true. It's really hard to find people with the right skill sets that potentially also are in the right geographic area, that have got the right time available. And I think part of that is people are unaware about the difference that they can make, and they're nervous about how onerous the role might be and what might be involved. They don't realize that they can make this huge difference, even with just a few hours of their time. And I think the challenge for charities is that there's a knock-on impact then. So often people end up recruiting through their network. So there's an impact on the diversity that we see at charities, the diversity of volunteers, because so often it's a tap on the shoulder of people in desperation saying, we're really stuck and can't find anybody, and so asking across their network, rather than being able to benefit from the huge diversity of candidates that are out there and that can add real value to the charity as well.
Yeah, but loads of value to the charity. Think about the individual. And obviously we're preaching to the converted here, because Catherine, you volunteer, I volunteer, my wife's a parish councillor in the village as well, so she's volunteering. One of the things we see in the village, though, is it's the same small body of people that always get called to do everything, and the rest are the last ones to put a hand up and the first ones to complain when they see something they don't like. So what's in it for the individual?
Well, and I just turn that thought around the other way, in the sense that I think once people start volunteering, they often don't stop, because it's such a rewarding experience. It's very humbling working alongside people that have dedicated their lives to the charitable sector. And I think you get the bug and you tend to do it again and again. So that's why you see the same people still being involved year after year. And the reason they do that, as well as it being kind of humbling and rewarding, is that, as you say, there's so many benefits, both personally and professionally. So from a personal perspective, you often get the feel-good factor, which is great for your mental health, for your physical health as well. You get that real sense of purpose and fulfillment. In the more simplistic terms, you meet new people, which can be hugely valuable whether it's new friends, or also you might meet somebody that's a mentor or has a future career opportunity for you. And then there's the sort of professional benefits, which is that it's an amazing way to build new skills and gain experience outside of your day job. So, for example, we see a lot at Charterpath, people that are maybe looking to take on board roles, and they're struggling to get that big break to be on a board in the corporate world. And actually serving on a board of trustees is a great way to get that experience and demonstrate to a future employer that you've had practice and that you can think strategically and you can contribute to a board. And actually,
very true of my own experience, actually, Alice. I've been a trustee at the sports centre, but I was also a member of the board at our biggest local further education college, Newcastle College. And I was looking at the time I took that role to thinking, well, hang on, I would love to do a paid non-exec role on a board. But getting your first role on a board is very difficult because of exactly that question. Where's your experience? The college board were very keen at the time. They were looking for several trustees, governors, And they took on a number of us. Surprisingly, 3 of us all had a finance experience. I was coming out of management consultancy. Another lady that joined was coming out of audit at Greg's. And the third person was a partner in a local firm of private equity investors. So lots of financial experience and different sorts of experience going to that role.
Then learn a huge amount.
Yeah.
Don't you? One other analogy, if I can, is just for myself at the moment on maternity leave. I served as a school governor and I've had 2 children recently and have not been back in my sort of corporate career full time. But what I've gained from serving as a school governor, whether that's been involved with pensions and challenging kind of issues at the moment in the school sector, and serving also as a trustee for a charity for young people, that is hugely helpful to maintain my CV whilst I've been away from the corporate world. So it does present so many opportunities from a career perspective for different people at different stages of their lives.
Yeah. And you get asked to find out about things that don't necessarily come across your desk in the workplace. And one that I remembered, the sports centres right at the start of COVID. Oh, furlough. How do we furlough people? Oh, we've got to do this in practice for 2 people because the sports centre is physically shut. So we can't pay an office manager. We can't pay a cleaner. We've got to furlough them. And things like that, you've got to go out and find out about them. And you build experience beyond the norm. I've seen situations of individuals I've known in the past who have ended up doing a probably higher graded job in the volunteering section than they're doing in their day job at work. So there are, I think, some great advantages.
Nice statistics around it, Kevin, given we're on a financial podcast. I think it's 79% of people who volunteer feel that what they've learned through volunteering has benefited their work career.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So finding time has to be the big challenge here. How do people find time to do this?
An ongoing battle, I would say, and something that, given I now am juggling many things, is something that I would say I'm still learning. I think the first thing really is that it comes down to prioritizing. And I know that's easy to say, but there's another great statistic about the number of hours that people on average spend watching Netflix a year, which I think is 732, which is the equivalent of 30 days a year spent watching Netflix or any other sort of TV program. I'm sure the stats would go up higher. So ultimately, whilst you are having to choose different things, potentially less watching TV, if you're willing to get involved and to reap the benefits of volunteering, I think you can kind of make the time by switching off that TV maybe an hour earlier than you otherwise would. And I think you can help yourself in doing that by simple things like blocking out the time in your diary to make sure that you kind of commit to the number of hours that you want to give to the charity and fitting in you kind of work around that. I think there's a big misconception about volunteering that it is hugely onerous and that you have to give a lot of time on a regular basis. Whereas really, depending on the charity that you work for, the nature of their activities and what they're doing, there's a huge variety out there in terms of the types of roles that you can get, and to find something that fits around your work schedule. It can often be done flexibly as well, which is really helpful. So particularly in the evenings or weekends, if you've got kind of a busy time at work. And then, of course, the big thing that people often miss is that so many corporates now offer corporate charity days. So potentially giving their employees 1 or 2 days a year to volunteering. And the take up is pretty woeful. I think the statistic is less than 20% take up of these corporate charity days, which is a huge missed opportunity, really, in terms of that value that could be brought to charities if everybody took up their time and volunteered their skills to charities on those days.
So we call this podcast Leading with Impact. Now, Leading with Impact is actually the name we're giving to this partnership between GrowCFO and Charterpath. So tell us more about the partnership.
Yes. Let me tell you a bit about the program that we've built as part of our collaboration. So as you may have guessed from what we've been talking about so far, it's all about personal and social impact. So it's about amplifying the impact that finance leaders bring to their business and to the wider world. And what we do is to support participants to become better leaders by bringing their skills to nonprofits. And it's not about telling nonprofits what they should do. This is a real life learning environment with a two-way exchange of understanding, ideas, experience. And we equip finance leaders with the additional tools and insights that they need to be able to contribute positively.
Sounds great. Tell me, how does that work in practice?
Yeah, so it's a combination of mentor-led workshops, facilitated peer review sessions, and real-world experiential learning, collaborating with charity leaders, ultimately presenting findings to charity board members. So we organise that across 10 weeks, starting with the mentor-led workshops and charity introductions before the participants start working in pairs together with their charity partners. We focus in particular on applying a strategic mindset, building trusted relationships, and impactful communication. And we take the participants on a journey from what makes a successful strategy to understanding stakeholders, from what is impact to making an impact. And we continue to support the participants as they work with their charity organizations to apply all of that through optional drop-in sessions and preparation for those board level presentations.
So Alice, I joked earlier on that this is all about you recruiting me to be a volunteer, but take me as an individual. How would I get involved in volunteering?
Well, there are so many ways, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the different opportunities available for different time slots that you've got available. There is a myriad of opportunities out there. So starting off with just maybe becoming a finance volunteer for a specific project. So there's lots of charities that look for help maybe with specific tasks, whether it's to do with the kind of year-end results, or maybe they're implementing a new financial system and they're looking for advice on it. And so that's a really nice way to get involved with a charity in your first role, where you might not be sure about how much time you commit through the long term, but you're willing in the short term to offer a bit of time and help with a specific project and see that delivered. And it's a great way to get to know the charity really and experience volunteering. And if you enjoy that and you're keen to get more involved, the next option might be to become a trustee, where you'll be sitting on the board of a charity and helping to provide advice on their strategy and supporting them with challenges that they may have and helping them plan for the future. Depending on the size of the charity that you're supporting will really affect the size and scope of the role and the work that you're doing. So the big thing that we say to everybody is make sure you ask for and read the role description so that you can manage your expectations about what you can bring to the charity and also what that they're expecting of you. So those are the kind of two extremes, really: a volunteer on an ad hoc project or serving on a board on a kind of permanent role as a trustee, maybe for 3 to 5 years is the average trustee term. And you might be looking to do that locally in your area, or more often now you can do things remotely. And there's also some great organizations which offer opportunities for volunteering overseas as well. Similar to a trustee role, and another great kind of starting point for volunteering is becoming a school governor. Because all of us typically have experience of school in some form or another, some more recent than others. And it's a very kind of well-organized structure. There's a clear senior management team in place in terms of the head teacher and their structures. And there tends to be one meeting a term. So there's quite a clear structure and mission, and everybody can really understand and get behind what they're trying to achieve. So again, there's some great organizations out there that support finding school governors, and another nice way to get involved. So I guess the short answer is there's something out there for everybody, and you just have to do your research to find the thing that fits best for you. And my number one bit of advice would be to volunteer for a cause that you're passionate about, because volunteering can be hard. It does take time away from watching telly or what other hobbies you like to do. It's an investment of time, and you're making a commitment to the charity to support them for a certain period. And so I think if it's a charity and a cause that you really are passionate about, you won't feel so hard to do it, because you'll be motivated, whatever the time of day or however busy it is, to kind of see it through. And I think the reward that you get of seeing something that you care about thrive is incredible. And there's no real feeling quite like it. So that's why you see people coming back again and again.
I really do think that aligning everything to your passions is so important, whether we're talking about volunteering or whatever. Now, if you're not passionate about something, at some point, the time and the effort you put into it become a drag and they become a drain. Certainly, I've been going through a bit of an annual review process lately and thinking, well, hang on, what are my passions? What are my values? Particularly when I might be thinking at my age, I might be going towards retirement in 3 or 4 years' time, or semi-retirement. What aligns with what I want to do longer term? What doesn't align? I've got some very interesting questions around that I'd encourage everybody to ask, in actual fact. But Catherine, we talked about corporate organizations and having team days and so on. How would corporates get involved in this partnership?
In terms of the Leading with Impact program, please reach out to me. I'd love to connect on LinkedIn and talk further. They absolutely should, Kevin, because there's so many benefits for businesses as well. Not only is it an opportunity for their leaders to further develop their skills and bring back another perspective to their organizations, but a whole raft of other benefits. Alice mentioned the corporate volunteer days that often are unused, and this is a really tangible way to not just pay lip service to that. Just another statistic for you, since we love that as good finance folks that we are. Pro Bono Economics report that skills-based volunteering schemes can deliver between £1.50 and £3.60 of benefits for every £1 spent. So it's a really positive ROI. People crave purpose in their workplace as well as their personal lives. So yeah, absolutely encourage that.
If you're listening to this as an individual, great. Yes, we'd love to connect you with Alice and Charterpath. If you're listening to this as a team leader, finance team or a wider corporate team, that you really want to find a way of managing to help the team make an impact, well, that's what the Leading with Impact Partnership Program is all about. So, Catherine, how would they take this forward? Anybody that's listening today?
So please connect with me on LinkedIn. You can also download the brochure on the program. Hopefully we can get that into the show notes, Kevin, or reach out via the GrowCFO website. But yeah, I'd love to chat further about the benefits that it can bring.
And one of those is kind of developing the impact skills alongside supporting the non-profit. So Alice, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Impact is, as Catherine set out at the beginning, it's something that we all kind of seek to do as good leaders, to lead in the right way, to make an impact at work as well as in the wider society. And really, it's about making a lasting influence or having a lasting effect on something or someone. And as Catherine touched on earlier, in the course, we'll be really looking at how people can develop those skills. So one of those things is having a vision that people can get behind and inspiring them. So we look at the strategic thinking. Another thing is about being really authentic and having empathy and emotional intelligence. So again, that's something that we touch on in terms of the program and how people can develop those skills, and particularly by working with a charity where there's different sensitivities, there's different priorities, which you'll probably remember, Kevin, from your days. It's a different way of working from the corporate space, and it's important to kind of adjust your mindset a little bit and think about the different priorities and challenges that they have. So in terms of that sort of impact, we'd love people to come on the course and develop those skills in terms of making their personal impact and also their impact on the charity sector by supporting them. As Catherine says, they'll be doing a project in conjunction with the charity, a financial health check. And then we hope that people will be inspired through the course to start volunteering their skills and making an impact in their day-to-day lives. Hopefully through Charterpath, we can find them a role where they can contribute their skills and their time, and they'll find it rewarding and they will keep on doing it for years. It's something we talk about as the multiplier effect. The more people with financial skills that we can get into charities, they have a huge impact on that charity beyond that immediate time they're putting in, because they'll make changes, sustainable change, which will help the charity in the long term. And then hopefully they'll go off and do it at another charity too. And that charity can also grow and support more people in more of those end communities that the charity is helping. So it's an exciting multiplier, and people coming to support Charterpath can really have this huge knock-on effect in terms of the value created for the wider nonprofit sector.
Brilliant, brilliant. So we've talked about how people can find out more about the Learning with Impact program. As we said, we'll make sure that we've got all the links in the show notes. How do people find out more about Charterpath?
If they could log onto our website, again, it would be great if we could share that in the notes, so charterpath.org.uk. And the most important thing really is to join us, so to join the community. And that's totally free of charge, but it means that they'll be able to access events that we've got coming up, which talk about how to get involved in volunteering, the different types of volunteer roles. They will be able to see and search for opportunities where they can volunteer their skills, whether that's an ad hoc project role or maybe a trustee role, school governor role. And then they'll also access our newsletter with upcoming news about events and YouTube channels, some exciting partnerships that we've got on the way too. So www.charterpath.org.uk and join us.
And that'll be in the show notes.
Thanks, Kevin.
I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. Catherine, Alice, thank you very much for being this week's guests on the GrowCFO Show.
Thanks for having us,
Kevin.